come and do my makeup with me. So the first thing I do is my brows. So my brows are microbladed. So I just use a pen from NYX and I just do strokes around them. So when you do microblading, it's like semi-permanent makeup. So during the year, it will fade a little bit. So obviously it's fading a little bit. So I just need to top it up. So I just like put a little bit of tint on them. Like if I didn't have microblading, I'll have to draw them on and it takes time. So I really recommend a pen if your eyebrows are done. Now I'm going to conceal my brows. Now I'm going to use a foundation to conceal my brows. I'm using the Estee Lauder. So basically, long story short, I bought the wrong shade of foundation. And I'm not going to throw it away. This foundation is like £40. So I was like, you know, I'm just going to use it as concealer, which is what I did. And the shade for concealer is actually perfect. It's light, but not too light. That stands out massively. So yeah, the difference between a concealer and a foundation is just the thickness, to be honest. So I use a beauty blender to blend everything out, clean it up. And as you can see, my eyes look so much brighter. I always drag my eyeshadow, my concealer down to my eye. So now we're going to go with eyeshadow. I like a nude crease, everything nude. I think it's just my usual go-to. Then for my lid, I'm going to go with shimmer, or it's usually a shimmer or a nude. So I'm using the Makeup Revolution liquid eyeshadow. If you're bad with eyeshadow, you need liquids, creams, pencils, eyeshadow. They're so easy to use and easy to control. I love the liquid eyeshadow because it's just so pigmented. Like, it's beautiful. Then I go with the e.l.f. eyeliner. I like to elongate my eyes so it gives like this cat eye effect because my eyes are a little bit too round. And I just, when it comes to eyeliner, as long as it's black and it's got a soft brush, that's it. Don't get fooled with these 16, 20-pound eyeliners. Then I go in with the Maybelline mascara. It's always going to be Maybelline. What can we say? Then it's time for the base. As you can see, my primer is almost finished. I use the e.l.f. Niacinamide primer and I just rub it in. Then for foundation, I go with the Exie foundation. Now, this foundation is for olive tones. I've got a neutral tone, so it works. If you have neutral or olive tones, I recommend X. They literally just do olive tones. If you're warm tone, I don't recommend this foundation at all. Then I'm going to go with blush. So I went with the Made by Mitchell blush. I went with SPF and Peach blush, I think it's called. Then I go in with a brush to blend my blushes. I always use a brush for my blushes. If you use a sponge, it will soak up that foundation underneath. Don't use a sponge. Then I'm going back again with my foundation as concealer for the outside of my cheeks. Then I'm gonna go with the bright Too Faced Born This Way concealer for my inner corners. Now this is a bright concealer, and I only use this concealer if I've got the Estee Lauder foundation, because the Estee Lauder foundation is not too bright enough. Like if I'm using my normal concealer, I would not use the Born This Way because it is bright. Then I'm gonna go with the Fenty contour stick to contour, so I look snatched, I look slim, and my face looks sculpted. Then I'm just gonna use a brush to blend everything out smoothly. I actually love Fenty. Out of all my other products, this is probably like my favorite. The contours shades, they're really good. Then I just use a little bit just for my nose because my nose is quite defined kind of, so I just use just a little bit. Then I'm gonna go with the Huda Beauty setting powder. I think they've changed packaging, but I'm still with the old packaging because they've not finished the Huda Beauty. I've not finished my Huda Beauty powder. But yes, when it comes to powder, I've used my shade. I don't go for brightening powder because I've used a brightening concealer. Brightening powder and brightening concealer is a bad combo. Then I go with the Beauty Bay blush on the shade Coral, and I just go in with my cheeks. It's quite a neutral color. And then I go in with a bronzer. I use the Beauty Bay bronzer for this. I think they've discontinued it actually. Then for my lids, Made by Mitchell eyeliner. Yes, I do use eyeliner for my lips. I do not care. It's literally a brown eyeliner shade. Then I will use the Kiko brown eyeliner to transition. Sometimes using a dark eyeliner straight with a bright lipstick is a bit too hard, so I just use that to, make a nice transition shade. Then I go in with the Kiko lip gloss on the shade 2, I think it's called. I think they're just named by numbers, and it's bright but not too bright. It's very neutral. Then I go with my e.l.f. setting spray, chuff 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 chuff. Then I go with my MAC highlighter. Yes, I am still in 2016 and I apply highlighter and I do not care. Then I apply some on my nose and on my cheeks. Then lashes are done and that's my face. I look cute and I'm ready to go.